So I've mentioned several times on my YouTube page that gangs in Chicago, at least here, and I think pretty much everywhere across the country, originally about 100 some years ago were pretty much all white gangs, but the white guys gradually kind of fell off with the street stuff around like the mid '90s. That was when I remember it really happening a lot. And today, the whites that still do it, typically they join Latino gangs or gangs that used to be white that have turned predominantly Latino. And there's still some examples that I can see, like especially out in the suburbs of guys doing this. So this is a particular story about one guy, and his name and based on his physical appearance, I'm assuming he's a white guy, but he could be part Latino. I'm not sure, but his name is Eric, and he is a Latin Kings enforcer that's been in the gang, or he was a Latin Kings enforcer. He's not anymore. He's been in the gang for over 20 years. He joined at 13, which is not unusual for guys joining gangs in Chicago. They typically get into it very young. 13 is actually probably like middle age for a particular time point at which guys join. I've seen guys join 11, 10, 9. Some maybe even younger if they grew up in a family like that. But he joined at 13, and the Latin Kings is a gang where I believe in most parts of the city you still like have to go through the typical rituals that they do when you sign up for a gang or you join a gang. In the black neighborhoods now, joining a gang isn't something that you really even like officially do anymore. It's just kind of like you go over to that block or you move there, or you start hanging around over there, and you just gradually get to know the guys, become friends with them, and that's pretty much it. It's just kind of like a neighborhood set of friends with guns that are into it with other guys from other neighborhoods. With the Latinos, you still have to get jumped in. If you do something wrong, you still get violated. So there's a lot more of kind of like the '90s old school structure still going on that used to be the case with the black gangs. So Eric, he got initiated into the gang at 13 years old, and he eventually became an enforcer for the gang. And I'm not going to put his pictures up here, but now he's pretty built. You can tell he's been working out big time. How long he's done in prison, I'm not sure, but he's now serving a time for a burglary charge. At least that was the case as of spring this year. Last time I had checked in on what was going on with him in I believe it was March. He was still serving a burglary charge over in DuPage County. Now, DuPage County is a county out to the west of Cook County, which is the suburb where Chicago is located. And DuPage County typically doesn't have all the issues with violence that Chicago has, but a lot of the gangs that originated in Chicago have kind of migrated out into that area, so there is violence here and there. So he's serving his sentence out over there, and he decided that it was time to call it quits from the gang, even though the penalty for that could be getting jumped or killed. The Latin Kings is one of those organizations that really doesn't let you leave. A lot of the Latino gangs, they don't let you leave, and I've seen this happen personally. I've seen guys try to leave, even other white kids that were in the Latino gangs try to leave, and the guys from the gang that were their former homies got down on them, or were pressing them about that. Now I know some of the Latino gangs like MS-13, they'll let you leave if you're turning Christian, if you are doing it because uh, you're going with God now. They'll let you leave, but that's the only reason. Any other reason, and there's going to be serious consequences. So uh, he is with other guys that have decided to leave their gangs, and he just decided recently to do this, and they're isolated from the rest of the inmates because of this decision that they're making. And he's being helped to do this by tattoo artists because his body at this point is pretty much covered in Latin Kings gang tattoos. He's got a big tattoo of a lion on his left arm, and the lion is a Latin King symbol. I know a lot of people get lion tattoos, but that's a telltale sign of the Latin Kings, especially if there's a crown on a lion's head. So some of the guys, I believe, are getting the tattoos removed, but some of them are just getting the tattoos altered to other shapes. Now, me personally, I recommend if you can get the tattoo removed, do that, because some people might still be able to tell that it's a gang tattoo or was formerly a gang tattoo. And the other thing is that even if it's not a particularly a gang tattoo, when it comes to getting jobs, and just the impression that you make in society in general, like being covered in tattoos, it's not a good look. It kind of looks not classy. You know what I mean? It doesn't look like this is a guy who's going to act professionally that we want to have around the general public. I mean, just imagine meeting like a girl's father that you're interested in, going home to meet her family and you've got face tats all over. I mean, it just. Now Eric doesn't have any face tats, but even like on the arms and stuff. I know in the military, they won't even let you join. At least back when I had tried to sign up for the Navy back in 2000, back in 2005, they won't let you join if you have any tattoos that are going to be visible below the sleeves. And I don't think you're allowed to have neck tats either. And a lot of these guys get these tats at a young age, when actually they still have some physical growth to do, and the tattoo, is gonna stretch, and it's just a really bad look, man. So yeah, I don't recommend doing that. And if you can get the laser removal, I recommend that. But these guys, these gang members, a lot of them are getting their tattoos like converted to other stuff. So Eric made this decision to leave the Kings because of an internal hit, and this is the kind of thing that I've seen cause a lot of guys to leave gangs. It's not anything that happens, as far as their rivals. It's when their own turn against each other. And I've seen a lot of guys do this, like when they get locked up and they get totally forgotten about, right? Nobody's putting any money on their books. And meanwhile, their quote unquote homies are walking around outside with chains on, hitting the mall, hitting the club, throwing money at women in the club. And they're sitting in there with no money on their books. That will make a guy leave a gang quick. When really everything that the gang is supposed to be about gets exposed as fake. So that's the most common situation I see. But this was a situation where it was an internal hit. One Latin king had killed another Latin king, and apparently the guy had just like shot him in the face, and it was just like a brutal murder. And Eric, as he rises through the ranks of the Latin kings, he could become a target, potentially for the same kind of thing. Sometimes these gang members, they'll go for somebody that's with the gangs that still have structure, leaders and stuff like that. The guys at the lower levels, they'll take out some of the guys at the bigger levels and then claim their spot. Now with the gangs like the black gangs now, you don't really see that because there's no shot callers and there's no leaders, so there's no spot to take. Everybody's on the same level anyways. But yeah, any gang with structure, this can happen. Okay, the guys at the lower level can actually do hits on the guys at the higher levels. And then also you have the opposite. Guys at the higher levels ordering hits on the guys at the lower levels. You see that with the mob all the time. So this is the type of thing, man. This is one of the big reasons why I never wanted to get involved in this when I was younger. A lot of the kids in my area were getting involved in that kind of stuff, and I was like, I'm gonna have to potentially, take orders from or get killed by somebody that I don't even know. So, anyways, Eric, he made the decision to do this, and he's 36 years old now. He was recently interviewed by the Associated Press, and shout out to Michael Tarm of the Associated Press for this story. They got access to the first 12 inmates enrolled in the largely privately funded program at the DuPage County Jail and to their cell block. So for their safety, they've isolated the jail's 500 other inmates, from the jail's 500 other inmates, half of whom are in gangs. So Eric, who, like I said, is in there on burglary charges, his street name is Hollywood, because he's apparently got some swag, but he was having nightmares. He said, "This life is all I've ever known." And he said the decision was agonizing, about his decision to deface the tattoos that have been central to his identity for 20 years. He said, "But it's for the better." And he added, "I feel like the change has officially begun." So he's not even going by the name Hollywood anymore, and anybody that calls him that, he kind of checks them. One goal is to land the inmates jobs in horticulture, welding, and other fields that they're learning. And that's according to the program's director and chief architect, a guy named Michael Berry. He said that there's booming interest among businesses scrambling to address COVID-19 driven labor shortages. So they don't even care, some of these jobs, if they've got criminal records. And I can tell you the the criminal record thing, making that visible to the public. I think it was in New York. They're discussing changing that so that once you have completed your sentence, your criminal record is not visible to the general public, even though it still be visible to law enforcement, or visible to employers. I mean, because the expectation is from the courts that you're not going to commit any more crime. They put you back out in society. They make a determination that it's a low enough safety risk to have you now around the general public. But when employers see that, their decision often is not congruous with the decision that the judge made about your safety. So then, you can't get a job. And telling you not to commit any more crime while preventing you from getting a job is kind of like telling you to mow their lawn and then taking the lawnmower away. That it doesn't work like that. Guys have to eat, and you can beg, but that's only going to bring in, I mean, who knows, like probably less than $40 a day in most cases. Well, that's not going to cut it for food and rent. So, guys got to survive, and a lot of them given the temptation to turn to crime instead of taking, I mean, you can live, okay, guys do it, like being homeless on the street and, just eking out an existence that way. But the temptation to, turn to crime when you're in that position is obviously enormous. So job training was available previously, but the gang and tattoo emphasis was added this year. So they said I used to beg businesses to hire these guys. Now they say as long as they show up for work, we don't care what they did. So the inmates aren't promised jobs or reduced sentences, but if they graduate, they do get help searching for work and relocating away from their gangs. So getting away from the Latin Kings, I mean, once you've been in that life and you're recognizable, that's tough because that gang is so ubiquitous. It's everywhere. To avoid Latin King gang members in the Chicagoland area is going to be practically impossible. So relocation to some area where, far out where they're not at is essential because, I mean, anywhere in the city of Chicago, like I can tell you, like I live on the north side, and the north side, is not as hot of a gang area as the south side. And yet we've got Latin King sets all over the place here and rivals to the Latin Kings, who obviously you have to avoid as well because they'll recognize you too. Participants in this program must have their gang tattoos removed or covered with other tats. And the sheriff, whose name is James Mendrick, he says it shows that they're serious about forsaking their old lives. He said it's a point of no return. It's a commitment to themselves and to us that we aren't wasting our time. So, and the jail-sanctioned tattooist, whose name is Tom Begley, he's been doing it for him. So shout out to everybody that's involved in this program, helping these guys. And this is a program that, hopefully more and more guys, besides just the initial 12, I think that's all that they mentioned are in it right now, but hopefully they'll get more guys and maybe have to expand a particular jail wing for more guys that are trying to leave this life. But the tattoo removal guys were saying that, these guys are in tears when they're doing it, and it's not from the pain. They said it's from the sadness of leaving behind the only life that a lot of them have ever known. So this program is funded by donations from churches, and shout out to them. And the sheriff who's running this program, he says, I'm a religious man. I feel I am answering my calling. And the tattoo removal guy says that religion is his motivation too. He said the program also offers classes on the Bible, anger management, and decision making, and it provides counseling to drug addicted inmates. So the one reason why, like I said, MS-13 and some of these gangs will let you leave is if you're turning to Christianity. If you choose that, they'll let you go. But any other reason, they're not going to let you go. So the program also offers those classes, and Eric said that the perks of gang life were enormous when he was young. He said being a gang member in my neighborhood was better than being the president of the United States. He said, I wanted the cars, the women, the power, the respect. But the killing of his best friend just 2 months before he went to jail was what changed his perspective. And like I said, it was an internal hit by another Latin King. And Eric said that he took 16 bullets, 4 in the face. He said it was like enough of it is enough. And he also was motivated by guilt at having hurt others. That began to weigh on him. So other participants also cited trauma from years of gang violence as motivation for wanting out. And Chicago police say that most of the nearly 800 homicides in the city last year, most in a quarter century, were gang-related. So one of the guys who's going to go unnamed, he's a 21-year-old who's part of this program too. Now he knows that he's putting himself in danger by spurning his gang, as they said. But he said, "quote, I don't want to be doing this 50 years from now. I know a lot of adults still in this life, and it's just eating them up." So yeah, what's thrilling as a teenager, that gets old real fast, man. Like once guys get older. One of the guys who's running this program is like a father figure to him, and he persuaded him to join the program. He said, "I've never had anyone come up to me and say there's another way to live." So Eric wants to create a meaningful life. One more criminal conviction, he said, could send him to prison for life. He said there are already signs of his transformation. So that armed habitual criminal thing is real. I mean, if you get that, you can really get slammed. And I see a lot of times guys, trying to make points about inequality in the system. They'll say like, this guy got this much time for this crime, and this guy got this much time for this crime, and the system is unfair. But they're ignoring the fact that one of the guys will have like a ton of priors, and the other guy will be his first or second offense. That's a big factor, a big factor. So if you continually do this, you can eventually get slammed for something small if it's like your 10th crime. So as Eric struggles to reinvent himself, he says that he wants nothing to do with his gang persona. He said, quote, I want to be able to wake up and not see that person anymore. So yeah, that's something a lot of gang members talk about, is like kind of having this fake character that they play, putting on that mean mug and, going out there and like being this person that really they're not, and that weighs on guys after a while. It gets real fast. And shout out to all these guys and everybody involved in this program for helping these guys to lead that life, because it's not easy. With the black gangs, it's kind of easy because you just move to a different area and, you're away from that set. But with these Latino gangs that have these like sometimes nationwide structures, getting away from that is tough. And removing the tattoos is part of that, and getting away from anybody that knows who you are is another part of it. And then just training your own mind through the ways that these guys are doing it. Their Bible classes, their job training to think differently, to think like not think like a gang member anymore, because there's certain ways that gang members react to situations. And I've seen this happen a lot. Like guys that were in gangs, they'll try to go the legit route, and they'll still be doing things that gang members would do in certain situations, even though they're not in it anymore. Like, they'll still get into it with guys over like trivial stuff that you're not really supposed to react like that, comment about them and take it disrespectfully and get in the guy's face. And it's like, you got to act differently once you're out of that life, but that takes, in most cases, time, I think. So yeah, shout out to everybody that's involved in this. This is your boy Wincy Report. I'm out.